Welcome to I'm starting out with hey guys. Hey you hey, it's Thursday night. That means that it is another edition of ATG Live. I'm one of your hosts, Pete Fletzer. I'm also joined, of course, as always, by Nick Mielke. And look who it is on the side there. It's Corey Ryan Forster again.
Hey, everybody.
Dream himself.
So am I wrong that that's a new intro and I'm not in it anymore? How about that? Great episode. Thanks, guys.
Damn it.
All right, peace out.
We should have waited one more week. We should have waited one more week to do that intro.
See how it is.
Y'all didn't think I'd remember, did you? They're like, oh, Corey, he's so busy. He's so drunk. He's so stupid. He won't know. Well, I know. It's the first thing I thought of.
It is important.
Hey, but if it helps, you're in the guest reel that we send to people when we're trying to get new people to come on this show. We're like, look at this cool motherfucker right here.
That is more important. You've redeemed yourself. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, it is Thursday night, which means that it's time to hang out, talk about Star Wars, and do all kinds of goofy things. There's a bunch of news this week. Corey's going to join us for our Snoketoberfest toast. And then at the bottom of the hour, we have Tim Barnes coming to join us. Tim, if you know Yub Nub podcast, we've had Greg Iwinski on the show a number of times. He's on the show with him, a comedy writer. So it's like comedy night here on ATG Live. But Nick, how are you doing, bud?
Whew. Yeah, it's Thursday, and I need this. Yeah. I need this hour to, do dumb stuff like drink beers with action figures in it in less than 10 seconds, because life can be extra.
10, that's the bar.
Times. Yeah, it's 8.5. It's 8.5. That's what
people are on bulls for longer than that. For the love of God.
Oh, and there's that one guy, and I've already made a prediction about this to Pete earlier today, and we'll see how it pans out. But there's the TikTok going around of the guy that sets up at college football games and for $20 a pop challenges people to try and out chug him. And he's literally like the one gulp guy. Yeah. Like one after another, like McAfee did it. And this dude's making like $300 a weekend, just straight out chugging people. I'm not there yet, but and it's probably we've got goals in life.
Yeah. My buddy used to do that. He would go to the bar, and at the end of the night, the bartender, they've got the bar mats and stuff, and they ring those out into pictures and stuff, right? And he would go, hey, he would bet his bar tab that he could chug the bar mat, do the bar mat pitcher, like not a shot, bar mat pitcher. He said, if I can chug it and sit here for 10 minutes and not puke, my tab's on you. And they'd take it every time. He won every time.
Amazing. I mean, everybody's got a gift, right?
Yep. And that was his only one.
My gosh. Well, yeah,
that
because his
brain
damage
is senator in Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
And that man's name is Donald Trump. So well, hey, we're hanging out, we're having some fun, we're laughing, we're talking Star Wars, but Nick, we can't get things going until we talk about our little fantasy sports vault week. This was an interesting week. We are coming down the home stretch. We got 2 weeks left after this. And Corey, just so you know, we have we did a draft. Hey, maybe next year you can be part of it as well. We did a fantasy sports draft based on different positions like Rebel, Pilot, Imperial, favorite trooper, favorite droid, all those things. That. And every week we have people vote on our Twitter feed, and the number of percentage points is the number of points you earn for the week. And this week we had, the question was, of the following three, which is your favorite Star Wars spaceship? I chose Millennium Falcon. Nick chose X-Wing, and the Ghost was the choice of Kelsey Puckett from ESPN. Who would you have picked? I
mean, did you have a specific draft order? Because it's like the Millennium Falcon is the Patrick Mahomes of the Star Wars universe. Like, yeah, of course I'm going with even if, and this is what you got to do to be a smart gambler. You can't go with your heart. You got to go with your brain. So like, even if the Millennium Falcon wasn't my favorite, which it is because it's the only right answer, but even if it wasn't, I would be smart enough to know that it's everyone else's. So that would have like, dude, I was not rooting for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. That did not stop me from making $2,000. You know what I'm saying? Because I know it's like, there's a 5-leg all Patrick Mahomes parlay. Yes, please give it to me.
Well, wait till I run the video and you see who Nick's choice was for Rebel. You're gonna love this in a second. But here's where the standings are as of week 9, with 2 weeks left in the season. We are tied, Nick. Me at Fletzer 346, Team Gen X-Wing 346. Bristol Banthas making their comeback. There's still 2 weeks left. They could pull it off. The only thing putting me in first place right now is the fact that I have 5 wins. So that's where we stand with this week on the points. This week coming up, however, though, so yeah, there was definitely a draft order, and you could pick any position you wanted at any time.
Right.
And
the biggest rule in it was like, if the week was Sith, if you pick Darth Vader, that takes Anakin off the table. Like, so if it was Jedi week, you don't get to pick Anakin. Like, it's a one and off deal.
I mean, only he believes that he's 2 separate people, really, when it comes down to it. You know what I mean?
That's
like
that
we all we like to say that, Anakin betrayed, but it's like we're all smart people. We know the deal.
Right. We all know
what happened. But we keep that in mind. Corey, have you done you do fantasy football, I imagine?
Yeah, I do. I'm in 2 leagues. Hate them both.
Right.
Yep. So haven't checked my lineup in 2 weeks. Did the same thing last year. Ended up in 2nd place. So I'm letting it ride again, baby. Not checking nothing.
Rolls.
Yeah.
Well. I'm gonna run a short clip from the draft this year. Nick essentially picked a kicker in the 3rd round. So here's the video from our draft. I think I have to go with, for Rebel, I'm going to pick a Rebel here, and I am going to pick Princess Leia. As I think about the voting of people when we put that out there, who's your favorite Rebel? I have her on the wrong team. People are gonna be a big fan of Leia. So from a points perspective, I got to go Leia. I think she's a good pick.
All right, I think I need to still pick someone in Rebel, so I'm gonna go with Hera. I mean, Hera, I love the Rebel series, and like I kind of feel like she's that motherly figure that, like, I don't know, I feel like a sense of comfort when I go to her. And
I'm ready to pick my Rebel. We've got to put Mon Mothma in here. There's so much leadership, strength, power, like. I mean, Leia's off the board, Hera's off the board.
I feel like this is so the wife isn't unhappy, like pick. I don't know.
Nope. This is a legitimate pick, 100%.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Star Wars theory. You're woke. You're too woke for this. That was a woke pick. That was for clout. That had nothing to do with knowledge. That was a DEI hire, you idiot. What are you doing?
That was the shared Facebook account pick of the entire Star Wars draft.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, I love Mon Mothma. I'm just, again, you can't go with your heart.
They both physically laughed at me the minute the words came out of my mouth. So it says everything.
Of
it's
course.
fine.
Yeah. So I think if you take a look at where we are in the standing, I think I'm going to pop pretty far ahead on you this week, my friend. I think this is where I kind of close out the season, and I think Bristol, the Bristol Banthas are gonna beat you as well. So it's gonna be we'll see where we are when we come back. So that's where we stand with the sports ball. But
be good.
Corey has joined us for a special moment here on the show.
Something very important.
So let's get to Snoketoberfest.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
That was beautiful. It was. And hey, I think the last time I did this show was I was in doing Oktoberfest in Helen, Georgia, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. We went extra, and you're like, "Hey, I can hang out. Can I go get another beer?" I'm like, "You're in the exact right place." That's it.
You found your home.
It is Snoketoberfest. It's Snoketoberfest week 2. Corey was, I mean, sometimes I have to sell this, and I have to take a minute to go like, "Hear me out." And I texted him the briefest description in the clip from one of them last year, and he's like, "Oh hell yeah, where do I get a Snoke?" Like,
you know what that description was? You have to be here for 5 minutes. No,
5 minutes and drink a beer.
No,
exactly.
I'm kidding. Yeah, it was drink a beer. Yeah, and hey, I got to tell you, I did something special just for you guys. I haven't broke this thing out in a long time. I had to go find it. I could have got any old mug. Lord knows I've got 1,000 mugs. I've got mugs with my faces on them. I got mugs that people have given me that I don't even remember the person that gave it to me. You know what I mean? But I thought I would go with this special drinking horn that I have because that seems like something that you would find in the canteen. You know what I mean? It's a little, it's kind of like the bottom of whose lightsaber is that? Yoda's? Does it have the little bend to it?
Yeah, you got the guy. Dooku, thank you.
Dooku. It's Count Dooku's. Yeah, Count Dooku's. It's got the little bend to it. So this is my Dooku drinking cup right here.
Nice.
All right. KG's coming at me, and I do have a special cup this week. Corey's an SEC guy, so I have my 2004 SEC champions Auburn Tigers glass because this
how'd that
was
go
the
for you
year.
this year?
Shut up.
That's a 20-year-old pint glass right there.
We're not talking about that. Hey, every 20 years you sneak up on one, so
that's right.
We're due anytime.
All right.
Hey, all of our players are in prison, so
we've all been there. You know, it's a part of the SEC. It's the culture we live in. Yeah, exactly. So, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is Snoketoberfest. You're all welcome. We've all poured up a beer. What we're going to do, we have a Snoke figurine. Pete has the naked Snoke because his came with a cloth robe.
Oh, BS. Wait, no, actually, you know what? That might be, I think we might be in better shape because ours are bigger. So they're going to push the beer up.
That's right.
Further. Whereas his, he could choke on his, that could go down his throat.
There's nothing worse than choking on a Snoke.
Go ahead and put it in.
Snoke. Yeah, put it in. That's what she said. Wait, what? Drop your Snoke in there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise this glass to Snoketoberfest. We're going to raise our glass to Corey joining us tonight. Pete's going to hit the audio drop, and we're going to hit these beers, and we're going to try and finish them before Snoke finishes his business from Rise of Skywalker. So, gentlemen, cheers. Happy Snoketoberfest, and Snoke's up.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
Mine was already in the case when y'all were still drinking, by the way.
Correct.
That was impressive.
You don't want to come for the king.
Yeah. Wow. Holy. I think
I actually
texted Pete slow-mo that and see see when he
lost
exactly. Holy, I'm impressed.
I texted Pete this afternoon and I told him, I said, I've won most of these. Corey's going to win this one. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, man. There's not a lot of things I can do, but that's one of them.
House of Beer, it's on the list.
House of Beer, yeah, I can do that.
Well, awesome. There are a few people that I'd rather House of Beer with, and one day we're going to do it in person. But my friend, thank you so much for popping in to do this tonight.
Thank y'all so much for having me.
Before you get out of here, you said it earlier, Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Oh, that's right.
Writing articles. Anything else? What's Corey doing right now?
Yeah, I'm a regular contributor for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I just filed my latest today. That don't mean I know when it's going to come out. But also you can go to welovecorey.com. That's where I do a lot of bonus stuff. I also host the podcast Putting on Airs, where two hillbilly dum-dums, me and Trey Crowder, talk about fancy things, fancy people, the Royals. What do they get up to? What are they like? Who knows? We do, and we'll tell you.
I got to tell you, phenomenal. Trey just had just an amazing car video talking about the election, and I like watched it and sent it to all my friends who don't agree and do agree with it. It was like, watch Trey go off on just the craziness happening in our world right now.
Well, I'm not going to tell him you said that.
Why?
Please. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
And we're gonna come back with the news after a real quick break, but you are tuned in to ATG Live.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Bro Axiom. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. Alright, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff, I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
That commercial still makes me laugh every freaking time.
Yeah.
Hey, there's the second hey of the night. That's gonna be the new thing. We're gonna make shirts that are gonna say hey, and they're gonna be featured below here on your YouTube thing. By the way, we now have memberships on our YouTube. So for as little as 99 cents a month, that's less than you can't get shit for 99 cents. But you can get that, which is some shit that you can then use little emojis and whatever's. You'll get a little badge. We'll be watching you from the chat, but feel free to check that out. But you know what, Nick, we have some news tonight. So why don't we get to that? Well, we are your source for all the Star Wars news of the week. And this week, we have 3 stories for you. We have an Acolyte cast member speaks out. We got season 2 of Kenobi may be happening. And the biggest and best of the Star Wars collections are all coming together. So let's get started. Jodie Turner-Smith, in a candid interview with Glamour magazine, recently voiced her frustration over Disney's inadequate support for the cast of The Acolyte amid rampant online harassment. She highlighted the immense effort Amanda Stenberg invested in her role, even crafting an essay to delve into her character's motivations. Yet, despite this dedication, Turner-Smith lamented that the studio silence when their talent faced some vicious attacks on social media. She said, quote, "It's disappointing to feel like your studio is not having your back in a very public-facing way." The actress urged Disney to take a firmer stance against racism and vitriol that plagued the show's cast, insisting that they needed to declare that such behavior is unacceptable. This call for accountability echoes the experiences of others like John Boyega, who faced similar challenges. While Disney had previously offered support to actors like Moses Ingram, the lack of strong response for the diverse cast of The Acolyte raises questions about the studio's commitment to its talent. As the conversation about online abuse continues, Turner-Smith's words serve as a poignant reminder that actors should not bear the weight of fan toxicity. Nick, this is a very thorny subject, and there's no I hate to say it, but there's really no right answer, and it's a difficult situation for both the actors. It's a shitty situation for the actors, but it's a difficult situation for Disney. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, and I'm going to come out of the gate right up top and say, as 2 white guys having a conversation about, what actresses and actors of, people of color have had to deal with in these scenarios, we don't know, we don't understand, we recognize that. It's so hard because this is a franchise that we love. This is a series. These are shows that we see over and over again. And we keep seeing these things happen. We see it happen with John Boyega. We see Moses Ingram. It honestly gives a lot more weight to me to the video that Ewan McGregor did in his car in defense of Moses Ingram during the Kenobi show when that all happened, because that felt more like there wasn't a PR person in his ear going, "Hey, this is what they want you to do." It felt like him going, "What the hell? This is somebody that I worked with and is, deserves to be protected and defended." And it's hard because we love this franchise and we want this franchise to succeed. We want these stories to continue to be told. But it also begs the question, at what point do actors go, you know what, it's not worth it. I don't want to get shit on. I don't want to get attacked because I'm in Star Wars and a bunch of dipsticks with keyboards are going to come after me, are going to come after my family, are going to force me out of, social media. It's hard. And I don't know what the answer is, but I also do firmly agree. I would love to see Disney step up and say, people that are treating our actors this way, aren't really Star Wars fans, because
the challenge they face is, you know, you look at the toxic YouTubers, you look at the people who are doing these things. Disney has an opportunity to step up and say something. The question is, and this is, again, as you pointed out, I'm really glad you said it. Two dumb middle-aged white guys who are not in Hollywood don't have this perspective. But from a PR perspective, if you begin to add air to that fire, you're going to continue to keep it going. So it's such a fine line. I don't disagree with Jodie Turner-Smith at all. I think that you do need to see better protection, or at least standing up. But on the other side of that coin, the more you give it, the more that keeps coming on. You're just going to keep that story going, and it's going to be perceived. It may be perceived in not the way that they want it to, if that makes sense.
Well, and it's hard because we hear the stories about somebody new gets hired to do a Star Wars project, and they're warned ahead of time, hey, you're going to get some shit. Like, if you have to warn everybody ahead of time, like, that's our first sign that we've got to handle this better. We as a company, as a corporation, as Disney, needs to step up and say, you know, the people that are coming after our talent, you know, that's not what Star Wars is about.
Absolutely.
You know, it's hard. It's real hard. I don't have the answer, but I would love for, you know, we would all love to see Disney step up some more.
Yeah, and I don't think it takes much, right? I don't think it takes a major. It doesn't. They don't have to buy billboards and an advertising campaign, but be out there and have officials at Disney say this is unacceptable. And you don't need to go. You don't need to go deeper than that to show that you protect your team. I mean, it's like a manager for your baseball team who's out there arguing a call that he knows is not going to change, but you got to get out there and just get in front and show support for the team, right?
Your team.
All right. Well, we do have more news tonight, and the next story is about, speaking of Ewan McGregor. During a lively panel at LA Comic-Con this past week, Ewan McGregor shared exciting news about the possibility of an Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. He revealed that discussions with Lucasfilm may be underway, igniting hope among fans to see more of the beloved Jedi Master. McGregor expressed a strong desire to explore the Clone Wars era, yearning to don Obi-Wan Kenobi's iconic armored attire and delve deeper into the character's past. He said, quote, "I would love to revisit those flashback scenes with Hayden Christensen." He recalled the camaraderie of their on-screen relationship. And although Lucasfilm has labeled the original series as a limited run, the door for future stories remain tantalizing ajar. Both McGregor and Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy have voiced their interest in continuing Obi-Wan's journey. As the actor reflected on the overwhelming success of the first season, which garnered high viewership and acclaim, anticipation filled the room and fans buzzed with excitement, wondering what new adventures may lie ahead for Obi-Wan. Despite the current slowdown in Lucasfilm's development of new live-action TV series, the prospect of McGregor revising his role as the Jedi Master keeps hope alive in a galaxy far, far away. Nick, we have talked about this 100 times, that this would be like printing money for Disney in our opinion. But let's talk about this sort of conversation coming from you. And to me, this feels very much like what he did for many years, saying, I would do it, I guess, if they called me. Meanwhile, they're working hard in the back end. You had Liam Neeson saying, oh, no, they haven't called me. And look at that, he shows up as Qui-Gon.
Imagine that.
What do you think this does for the chances? What do you think this, if you're in Vegas and you're watching that betting line coming up on
I'm putting money on this. You know, this is a bet that I'm making. Ewan McGregor has, you know, the weight, the cachet, the swag, the whatever it takes to, you know, and again, we saw it coming, you know, out of the prequels, the hate, seeing him on stage talk about how, you know, for a long time I didn't want to do it. And then the love and the fans and the tide shifted.
Yep.
And we've said it. I've said it multiple times in the last couple months on this show. It's the safest money that I think Disney could spend, besides, you know, printing some more Baby Yoda t-shirts, is put Ewan McGregor in an Obi-Wan Kenobi something else. Regardless of how you felt about the first one, it covers all ages. It covers all genres. It's somebody that everybody knows. And, you know, me personally, very selfishly, it speaks to my heart when he talks about being in that General Kenobi armor with the plastic, because I've said, if there's a cosplay that I could get away with, that's the one that I think I could pull off. Like, I want to see that. And if there's a little bit of digital, whatever, but also if you get into those Clone Wars years, it offers the opportunity for Hayden to be involved, and that synergy, that love that they have for each other. I mean, those are wins across the board. So I think it's the safest thing Disney could do behind the Mando movie and probably right up there with, you know, the possibility, you know, whatever the Rey movie is going to become. Like the three safest things they could do is that.
I think they should avoid a series and make it into a movie. Make a 2.5-hour movie of a Clone Wars adventure. Samuel L. Jackson from the Marvels, his face, right? I mean, I just made that a verb, which really isn't, but you know, him and Hayden and bring Ariana Goldblatt, right, who played Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. Bring her
in. Morrison will come be some more Rex or clones or whoever he needs to be.
Let's see
this
that.
This is money. This is printing money.
Yes, I think that this would be the easiest and best thing they could do. And I'm with you, Nick. I think the fact that he's even talking about it and tipping his hand a little bit, I think it's happening. I'd be surprised if it's
I'm all about it.
All right, we got one more news story before we bring up Tim Barnes at the bottom of the hour. So let's get to it. Let's see here. Oh, yes. Breaking news from Seattle, Washington, as the Rancho Obi-Wan fundraiser has unveiled exciting new news about a new venture for Star Wars fans, the creation of something called the Saga Museum. Steve Sansweet, the founder of Rancho Obi-Wan, who tipped us a little bit when he was with us a couple weeks ago that there was big news coming. He says that the world's largest collection, which he owns, certified by Guinness Book of World Records, will merge with the incredible treasures of renowned collectors Gus Lopez, Duncan Jenkins, and Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz, who have, and you got to hear these names, the Boba Cabana, which is fantastic, the Imperial Archives, and undeniably my favorite, and yours too, Nick, the Smithsonian. So these all these collections are coming together. The Saga Museum aims to celebrate the legacy of Star Wars fandom by bringing together over 1.5 million objects into one single immersive experience. While it may take a few years for the doors to open, the locations currently being scouted. Rancho Obi-Wan will continue to operate and offer tours of Sansweet's impressive collection in the meantime. Sansweet said, this new museum is for everyone who has ever felt inspired by Star Wars, envisioning a space that fosters creativity and education around science, technology, and art. Steve, Gus, Duncan, Lisa, and Vic are going to be breaking ground on this new project in the near future. And as details unfold, I am certain we will have Steve on with us. Nick, what does this mean for Star Wars fans?
This is a holy pilgrimage situation. This is, you know, Rancho Obi-Wan, you know, is that now. We've both got friends that have gotten to go. You haven't been to Rancho Obi-Wan, I don't believe, but you've been to, you know. Yes. Oh, have you been to Rancho Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I was there. I was there before it was officially Rancho Obi-Wan. See, that's
gotcha.
You know,
okay.
I know people. Yeah. I got friends.
You go way back. You got connections. But so we've got friends that have been. You've been. It. You know, that alone is tremendous. Yep. And then to hear about these other private collections and to see the things that can come together in this, you know, this falls right there, number 2 for me, behind just getting to go in the Lucasfilm Archives, which in my mind, the Lucasfilm Archives is the warehouse at the end of Raiders. Like there's just shelves and stacks and, you know, we're pushing things through it. I want to see that. I want to see every weird variant of a toy from Japan and the Philippines. I want to see, you know, every different, you know, the screen used props that somebody's bought, things that I can't own. We've had jokes for years in our, you know, our versions of toy collecting where I say, I can't wait to enjoy that in your collection. You know, I don't get to own all these things. So give me the opportunity to go to San Francisco and see 1.5 million different Star Wars things. Yeah. I mean, this is another great opportunity to preserve the legacy of something exciting.
Absolutely. No, I think it would be, I love it. And you know what, look, again, for some reason, the last couple of weeks, I've taken the morbid side of things, but the reality is, you know, these are collections that are owned by people who are older than us. These collections need to, they are no longer just somebody's collection. It's not like my helmets, you know, so if I run into a bus tomorrow, people are gonna be like, oh, his helmets, they'll give them away. But these are things that are are part of American history in a way, and part of global history, entertainment history, and to make sure that they're going to be looked after for the next 100 years it means a lot. And I think it's just a really great situation for them. And again, I'm so happy that Steve and Gus and Vic and all the folks who are involved are able to bring this together and drop this and make it available for everybody to see. I think that's really an amazing situation.
Just another excuse to travel for Star Wars, right?
Yeah, another place to pilgrimage to. Well, well, that's going to do it for the news this week. Thank you so much for checking it out. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Tim Barnes from Yub Nub Cast. We'll be right back with more ATG Live. Well, welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks to Corey, who joined us at the top of the hour to knock off this week's Snoketoberfest. Thanks for hanging out for the news. And we have a guest, don't we, Nick?
We do indeed. We are excited to welcome this week Tim Barnes. Tim Barnes is one of the members of the Yub Nub podcast. Craig Owinski, Jim Fagan, Tim. They've been a part of Podathon, and honestly, we said this year it was one of our favorite parts of Podathon. They were on with us live. We got into, connections between Star Wars and 9/11, all the things you expect when you're raising charity money for, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But Tim is a TV writer. He's worked on, all that, and Jimmy Fallon, worked on all these great things. Maurice on Mars, which if you haven't watched that, you've got to go find it. You've got to go watch it. So much great stuff. And Tim's a Star Wars fan like us. So we said, hey, man, come hang out. Let's do some silly nonsense on a Thursday night. And he said, of course, I'd be glad to. So we are thrilled to welcome to this week's ATG Live, Tim Barnes.
Oh my God. I'm in such awe of all of the production value of this show. Thank you for having me. You are single-handedly making being a Star Wars fan feel cool. Dare I say again? I don't want to say anything with again because of the connotations with he who shall not be named. But
right.
Yeah, this is so much fun. Thank you for having me here.
No problem. We're excited to have you. Nick, is it just me or do you not see him on the screen?
I'm missing Tim at the moment. He's frozen on the bottom.
Oh. Well, I see all of you. I see where I am. Everyone chime in the comments. Can you see me?
Can you see Tim Barnes? Let's see.
He's frozen in the bottom screen and he's nothing on the main screen. What do we got, chat? Anybody see Tim?
After he just gave us praise for our
that's right.
our production
thanks for praising us, but we can't see you.
It's so weird. Everything on my end is totally fine and working perfectly. So
let's try this. Okay. Can you hit a refresh real quick, Tim, and see what happens?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'll refresh.
Awesome.
I'll kick you out here real quick. Let's
see.
We'll just put the audio of that. Maybe
we can't see him. Yeah. Just there it is. All right. There he is.
Hey. Well,
okay.
Back in action.
Making making Star Wars fans so cool though. Everything is this is great.
Well, I'm glad you're here hanging out with us.
Fantastic. Listen, you've been on with us before. We did an ATG regular podcast episode. You and I chatted for a while. Yeah. You've been a part of Podathon. You're one of our favorite people. I love Yub Nub. I preach the gospel of Yub Nub anytime I can. Retweeting. Greg's been such a great friend of the show. Jim is actually on either next week or the week after. So we're stacking y'all up. But anybody that may be watching tonight that doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about who Tim Barnes is, your connection to Star Wars. Just kind of give us the rundown.
Yeah. So my name is Tim Barnes, first of all. Everyone got that? Writing that down. And I'm a comedian, a TV writer, a podcast. I'm this new generation of really leaning into being a multi-hyphenate, because that's what you have to do. Everything's a gig now. All of our jobs are just like cobbling together 50 gigs.
Yeah.
And I became a Star Wars fan when I grew up in Los Angeles, just a few blocks away from USC. And I became a Star Wars fan at the same time that I became enamored with this concept of George Lucas, who went to this school so close to me. And so it's all kind of like connected into all that stuff. And one of the first things I wanted to do was to be a filmmaker. So I, briefly went to some film school type things. And now here I am. This is where film school leads, everybody, being on this awesome podcast.
I don't know if that's the highest selling point, but we're going to take it. Yeah.
If you're looking for me to promote something, Maurice on Mars is the most recent thing that's out now. And that was an animated web series that I made for Comedy Central about a black man working at a coffee shop on the first Martian colony. And it was inspired by my own experience being a black man working at a Dunkin' Donuts while being a struggling comedian in Chicago, which is a Martian colony of sorts.
Certain parts of Chicago certainly can be thought of as such.
Having been born and raised in Central Illinois, I can confirm that parts of Chicago are very Mars-like.
And Yub Nub is just the three of us. We're all TV media makers, and we started it during the quarantine era of the pandemic as just a thing to do. And I like to think of us as a little podcast that could. We keep plugging along and having a good time together.
It's a great podcast, and like I said, I know you guys and have been connected with y'all in different ways. Greg and I got to hang out at Celebration in Anaheim a couple of years ago, but part of, I think, what makes Yub Nub so special is you love Star Wars. In fact, you say, it's the podcast for Star Wars fans who actually love Star Wars, but you're also TV writers. You understand the craft, you understand, a lot of the Hollywood aspects of it. And so that gets into, being able to watch a show, whether it's Andor, whether it's Kenobi, whether it's Acolyte or whatever, and to be critical of it in a way that talks about the making of the thing. Talk to us a little bit about what it means to be a Star Wars fan, consume this media, but also understand how it's made.
Yeah, and I just want to say my favorite thing about us as a trio is that we all really, really love specific aspects of Star Wars. For me, it is like that feeling of watching the bonus features on the DVDs. That's my favorite part of Star Wars. To me, what makes Star Wars so fun is the fact that somehow a group of people got together and made this weird thing that I love. And the lore is great, but but more than the lore, I'm like, who is this author who got this task to write this thing, and how did they apply that? So yeah, I hope I'm slowly getting towards the point of answering your question. I think that I am. What was the question? It was what's the secret sauce to our approach to talking about Star Wars? Is that kind of
just the idea of being a Star Wars fan? Yeah, that's it. Being a Star Wars fan, but also working in Hollywood and entertainment and TV and that kind of thing. Like, you kind of get a little bit of a backdoor to it, because we may watch Kenobi and, generally speaking, we know, there was a writer's room and there was a this, but you know how that process works, and so you may consume Star Wars even more differently than we do, as people who just have a dumb podcast that, we've had to separate ourselves to go, okay, I want to watch the new episode because I enjoy it. Then I'll watch it a second time so I can comment on it on the show tomorrow. You have more of an inside knowledge of how the sausage is made, as the kids say. Kids don't say that. We say that about.
Well, I think that inside knowledge is what allows us to give all of the shows a little bit more grace. And I think our approach is really sort of saying, we're mostly just happy that we're getting Star Wars stuff. That's really what it is. And we've all been in positions where, we're trying to see the auteur element behind it all. We know what it feels like to have to work through all of the campaigning, all of the politics, all of the filters of notes. And so we're always rooting for whoever is like that true creative impulse behind these Star Wars projects, and trying to figure out, how like what's the truth behind how this thing got made, and how can we tackle it. And if there's things that we don't like, we try to be very open about it. But ultimately, we're just saying, the stuff that we like is because we just like it. We're not in the we try to avoid the what if of it all, which I think fandom, that can be the most exciting part of fandom sometimes. But we try to deal with like, well, this is what we got. How do we get it? What do we think about it? And when we're mad about something, when we don't like something, we're not. There's no religiosity. There's no religious fervor.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Behind it. Yeah, exactly.
I was doing the news story about Jodie Turner-Smith, and I saw you sitting there in the background, and I felt like you might have a comment on it. But and again, as somebody who creates content, and as you deal with or as these shows deal with different levels of there's some critiquing, and I use air quotes for critiquing in that case, where it's based on just this weird sort of aggression and hate, versus Nick and I are more than happy to talk about the things we don't like, and because it's sometimes as interesting to talk about where it might have missed for us, or where we might like to see more of. What do you think, and you don't have to use Disney as the example, but what does the studio do to manage, or should they step up and say something to deal with the toxicity, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever?
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think with the latest Lord of the Rings series, I do think that they handled that pretty well from what I saw, and they didn't stop. There was no abrupt turn for season 2. If anything, I thought that they took the most constructive elements of the criticism that they got from season 1 and applied that to season 2. Like I liked season 1 of the Rings of Power, and I like season 2 even better. And I love seeing that in people who create things. But yeah, what can Disney do? What can these companies do? I think there is this feeling that I get, and a lot of us are getting, as we get this disturbing feeling that algorithms are replacing the human element. And as these companies get bigger and they collide and they have babies and whatever's going on, that you start to get this sort of feeling, and it might not be the reality of it, but there's this feeling of a lack of the human touch and a lack of the humanity, or this feeling that this project is going for the most. It's trying to reach so many eyeballs that the whatever reason that a comment isn't made to rally behind an actor who's getting a lot of hate, it feels like it's tied to these larger concerns of like, it's kind of like the Bud Light situation.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's the best way to put it. But I did feel like Star Wars itself, I recall a couple tweets that Star Wars, the brand, made during some of the backlash with the Acolyte. But ultimately, it's just so hard to tell, isn't it? Like, why aren't we getting that season 2 of Acolyte? What's going on here?
It definitely feels like they didn't want to influence the algorithm. Like, that's the way I kind of look at it, is like, because algorithm is making so many of these decisions, and I hate to say it, like, and the problem is, and as a consumer of content, as somebody who looks, and I know Greg Iwinski would kill me if I called anything content. I understand, but let's just say series. But anything that's being produced, like I was going to watch Chaos. I guess that was Netflix. I was going to watch it. It was on my list, but now that I know it's been canceled, I'm kind of like less excited about it. And everybody I talk to is like, "No, you still have to watch." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm going to love it, and I get more of it." And so it's a challenge, and I guess it's. I think it's a skill set that I'd like to see more of from the writers' rooms, of writing a series in such a way that if we don't get a second season, it's okay. if you do get a second season, it's a gift and an extension. And I think it's just also very difficult for these companies to figure out how and when to engage in the uglier fan conversations, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the what makes me feel so sad about the state of what's happening with the Acolyte is that the Acolyte's intention was to reach like across the board. It felt it had everything for like, you know, little kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, adults, original Star Wars fans. It was going for that big tent energy, and I think when you compare that to something like Andor, which I love, Andor is such a niche specific thing. And I just don't know everyone that I know who even has what I would call, you know, reasonable gripes with the Acolyte. They love the parts that they love so much. And again, it just feels it's scary that we're getting to this point where no one is looking at that glimmer of potential from the first season of a show and giving it that second chance to really skyrocket. It feels like. And the more that starts to disappear, the harder it is for a lot of creative people to get their legs in the industry. They're barren.
It must be. I mean, as a writer yourself, do you find it? Does it impact you? Is it discouraging at all, or do you just have to kind of like be like, screw it, I got to do what I got to do?
It's discouraging a bit, but it's kind of hardened this feeling that I've had of just focus on the art of it. Focus on the part that you care about the most. Because what I love the most about Andor is that, you know, when people tell me like, but it didn't get 1 billion views or something, I'm like, I don't care. It's such a great little gem that exists, you know. And I don't know why I haven't purchased it on DVD, but it feels like something that will be a treasured, you know, physical object in my home. And I feel like that about a lot. Like I love a lot of Apple TV Plus shows, and I know that a lot of people aren't watching, you know, these niche sci-fi things on there, but it makes it feel so much better for me as a human being who feels like this is a personal sort of discovery for me, and I'm just excited to tell a friend about it. And so the more that I focus on that, and I think the more that everyone focuses on that, the greater, you know, kind of stuff that we'll get. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I think it totally therapy or something.
You know, it tracks with that. And I have a comment, and then I'll follow up for my next question. Talking about Apple TV Plus, I just finished Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn today. It's great. Like, I want to preach the gospel of that show because it's very Vince Vaughn. He's quippy. He's exactly what you get in Old School and all these other things. But it's a detective show, and it's set in the Keys, and they're like, it's just good. And there's that thing where you're going, we don't hear about it because Apple TV Plus is not Netflix, is not Disney Plus, is not like there's a scale almost that falls in there. A couple weeks ago, my family, we've watched Ted Lasso, and several weeks ago we were like, we should rewatch that. So we loaded up, found some other free trial of Apple TV Plus because we hadn't had it in a while. And when I loaded it up, like the automatic previews that start running, that just like one after another, it's like 10 or 11 things, movies, shows, the Wolf show that Gordon from the Nolan Batman, what's his name?
I know what you're talking about. It's Slow Horses.
Slow Horses. And like all these things, the new Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie, like all these things, like one after another, I'm going, look at all this stuff. Everything on here looks great. And I'm going, I don't have this platform. I'm not watching this, but I'm like, I now have 10 new things I want to watch. So that's one thing. And that speaks to what you're talking about with, you know, a platform like that. My question for you is, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, if you expand the view out a little bit, looking at Star Wars, we haven't had a major movie, you know, in the theater since Rise of Skywalker. We've leaned into this, not only Star Wars TV, but we've leaned into streaming TV. And I'm not going to ask you any questions that may put you in jeopardy of like a future job or anything like that. But what we know about TV shows is we used to have pilots. We used to have something where we could test these things out and figure out what works, what doesn't. Is this going to become a series? And I feel like in this new streaming model, we've lost that. And so it's either we're going to make at least this one season. We've committed to paying for a full season of Acolyte that was budgeted at this. It went over to this. We don't have the ability to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't the same way the old network model does. As a writer, and I don't even know for sure what my question is, other than as a writer, the changes versus streaming and network, and these are different platforms and models. It doesn't work the same way. Where is the harm and the help in either one of those?
I think it can be very helpful for people who are younger than me. I'm like, I'm just getting to that age where it's like I can only hustle so much, but I feel like it just feels like that sort of it sounds like in a way you're talking about that lack of like their pilot season is stopped, is no longer a thing anymore. And so there used to be a sort of cadence that you could have with pilot season. And now it feels like, since everything is constantly going on, it's hard to navigate ultimately.
Sure.
So for me, what is helpful is just backing away, not getting caught up with, the excitement of all the millions of things popping up, and just having my own personal pilot season, trying to write 1 or 2 things a year, that kind of thing. And just focus on, whatever constellation kind of goes around my own gravitational pull there. But in terms of Star Wars, it does feel like you would think that with streaming, you could easily have some sort of, they do this a bit, but you could use something that's like, a what if type series just to like test out things. Yeah. And I actually really do respect what Disney has done in the streaming space with Star Wars. I think that we're going to look back at it as a very interesting experimental era for Star Wars, because it kind of got back to this feeling of American zoetrope in a way, that sort of startup company that Coppola founded, where it was Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and a band of cool filmmakers getting together, and like, we have this truly a vague concept about a Mandalorian and a Baby Yoda, truly. And it was, that first season was very experimental with like a loose thread of like beginning, middle, and end throughout the episodes. But some of the best stuff was just like, he's trying to get Baby Yoda from here to there, and then something happens, and allowing these filmmakers to just like figure out how to use the volume and all this stuff is fantastic. And I think like, volume cinema is going to be something that we learn how to analyze and appreciate in a different way. The same way that like a lot of people now appreciate the aesthetic of the blue screen era of the prequel movies. That's it. So yeah, all that is kind of in there. I just hope that that there is like a stabilizing force at some point. It feels like the thing that is the biggest hindrance to me as an outsider looking in is the end of seasons that are longer than 7, 8, or 10 episodes. Like having a 20 episode season of something, having a standard time for the episodes. But slowly, I remember having to wake up at midnight or whatever to watch a new Mandalorian episode. Now they have, they start to have actual time slots. So little things are happening where it's
starting to feel like TV again. Yeah,
exactly. So they're slowly getting back there.
I can't. I don't understand. I wish I knew what has driven this sort of random short episode approach in an 8 episode. You do that in 12 to 16 episodes. That kind of makes sense, and it allows things to breathe. But I don't know. To me, I'm not in the industry as much, but it's a matter of there's got to be a reason why that's the direction they've gone. Because I mean, even like Agatha All Along, which has been just a blast to watch. I'm enjoying that show much more than I expected to. But this past week was 31 minutes. The week before it was like 46, and so it's just it's hard to like buckle in for each episode, right? Like Game of Thrones, okay, it's going to be between 55 and an hour and 10, and let's just do this, right? So
I love this question that popped up. Is it because of money? And we've talked about this quite a bit, Jim and I on it always sounds like you're saying the word Jim and I on Yub Nub, about, let's say, whatever the budget was for the Acolyte. Do we really need, all of the flashy special effects? If you were to be able to, tell the Acolyte story in 15, 20 episodes, and we just have like 5 sets that we're going to, but it's just like really killer writing. I feel like we are at this space where the convergence of television and streaming and movies has become one look, one aesthetic. And we critique TV shows now by the standards that we once only critiqued movies in terms of like special effects and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, well, I'm down to have, less cool special effects if I get to hang out with my friends for longer. Like I
like that.
That's perfectly fine. So I think, it's just kind of untested how much money you could make if you make a longer season of a sci-fi show. And I feel the same way, honestly, about like what's happening with Star Trek. I've become a Star Trek fan lately, and I wish I had more episodes with my friends and all these shows.
Yeah,
cool.
There's so much to it, and I'd love to dig into this, and we may have to do this another week and get you back on and talk about just the nuts and bolts of it, because it fascinates me to no end. But as I emailed you and as you responded back, I said, this is casual Star Wars fun. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some silly things. And this is no exception. So we have come up with a little bit of a game. I don't know if it's a game, if it's a bit, a segment, whatever we're going to call it. I am an old school adherent to David Letterman. And one of the things that he did was, is this anything? So we've got a few instances of, is this anything? So Pete's got a bumper because Pete is our production maestro. He comes up with all the cool things. We're going to run this bumper, and we're going to put some things up, and we're just going to very simply put it out there to you and go, is this anything? And we're going to dig into it for a couple minutes, and we're going to do a couple of these, and then we're going to get you on your way because we promised you a little short time, but this has been so much fun so far. So Pete, it is definitely time for us to get into, is this anything?
Every single graphic is amazing.
Wow. So, and it gets better because we know this is a David Letterman bit. We stole it. Fair enough. Fully, but Dave's doing Netflix and hanging out and being cool with his big Jesus beard. The first one, and I think I've got it right here, Pete. I don't know. Do you want to put it up? Do you need me to put it up?
Sure, I'll put it up. Yep.
Okay. So that's going to end up in the right place. Here's the first one. This was an article from the Hollywood Reporter. It was October 3rd, so not that far ago. Is Disney bad at Star Wars? And they went into a whole deep dive analysis. My question to you, as Tim Barnes, the Star Wars fan, not the industry insider, not the person who works on TV shows and other things, is this anything? Is Disney bad at Star Wars?
I see. This is my favorite thing is watching how politicians answer questions. I think that's a fine art, and I think that what we're really looking at when we're trying to find a president is their ability to do that. Correct. I think people get angry when they don't directly answer a question, but I think the ability to do that is what you actually want, because you want someone who can talk to other world leaders in a skirting the actual topics in an actual way.
Right.
Sort of like what I'm doing right now. Is Disney bad?
Right. You'll know earlier we said we don't want to put you in a situation that could put you in a bad situation. Now we're asking you, is Disney bad?
I don't think that Disney is bad at how do they phrase it? I don't think Disney is bad
Disney
at
bad at Star Wars?
I think we've gotten a lot of great things from Star Wars in the Disney era. A lot of things that, that are beneficial to me personally, like being able to have a character like Finn is amazing. Being able to, I think they're pretty good at it. I think they've come to the end. The learning curve has ended, and now I feel like they're in this point of like, let's activate. I feel like I'm talking like a Power Ranger. But,
if I hear what you're saying, and I think I agree with you 100%, is that has it all been 10 out of 10? No, absolutely not. Has there been some misses? For sure. Has there been some really great things? Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Without Disney buying Star Wars, you don't get Grogu, and if you don't get Grogu, Star Wars is still back burner and something that only nerdy geeky people talk about. But I say it all the time, you can't throw a cat without hitting a Baby Yoda t-shirt at a Walmart. And it's still, even though Grogu hasn't been on screen for 2 years, he's still like the thing. So so they aced that. They understood that. I love what you were saying before about taking some risks, and they took risks, and some of it really didn't work for everybody. I mean,
they really did take huge risks.
Look at Andor.
People forget that.
Andor is a brilliant series, but it's not your typical Star Wars at all.
There's not a lightsaber in it. There's no force in it. Like Rogue One even bailed out at the end with Maul and the lightsaber and the whole thing.
No, that was
Vader. I mean, the Vader
Solo.
I mean, Solo. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
even
like
Solo
Rogue One, but Rogue One, the Vader piece at the end. Like both of those still have that thing where you're like, ooh, a lightsaber. Ooh, there's a whatever. Andor is straight up like, and what I've asked for a million years. And Matt, this one's for you. It's my West Wing Star Wars. You know, like Andor is, you know, give me the dialogue heavy, the machinations, how it happened, what went on of Star Wars. And it straight up works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like they kind of, the phases, especially with the sequel trilogy, is like you can feel them actually listening to whatever was in the air from the quote unquote fans. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You had The Force Awakens, which I appreciate so much. I think The Force Awakens might ultimately be my favorite of the sequel trilogy. It really set the tone. It got us to a solid place with Star Wars again. I felt like you had this big mystery. Everyone cared about Snoke. And then they made the anti-fan service movie. Like that's a huge risk in a number of ways. But it felt like that was a response to this sort of like, you know, massive angry feedback that was kind of out there about how fan servicey maybe The Force Awakens was. And then the only way you can combine those two polar opposite ends of the spectrum resulted in The Rise of Skywalker. Whatever you think about The Rise of Skywalker, that was also them trying to be like a true democratic approach. It felt
that was The Rise of Skywalker was sort of like the presidential primaries of Star Wars. It was like, what's the most marketable thing we can do here? And look at all this Star Wars.
Like how do we answer the Snoke question? How do we, all this stuff?
Right.
Absolutely. All right, well, we have a second Is This Anything? Actually, we have 3 total Is This Anything? So we got our second one coming up now. This second one is the tweet that came out from Simu a day ago, the day before yesterday. It's the GIF, however you want to say it, of Finn lighting the lightsaber, and then John Boyega responds with one of my favorite emoji ever. It's that pseudo smile emoji. There's 4 of them. So my question to you, Tim Barnes from Yub Nub, is this anything? Is this?
It feels like it's so much of everything.
Like we've got a Rey movie on the horizon. Of course, we want a Rey movie with Boyega in it. We have the Lego special where Finn is being trained as a Jedi. Is this anything? That's the question. What do you see in this?
I feel like they're both in the movie. I mean, it must be. I don't know. I don't know how active John Boyega actually is on Twitter. I haven't. I need to look into this. I don't know how truly active he is, but it feels like something that might be a little calculated, right? It feels so casual that it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to your question either, but I feel like if you ask me on a gut response, I don't think Boyega is super active. So the fact that he does, he's activated for this thing, maybe there's something to it. Pete, what about you?
Yeah. I was just sort of scrolling through and I actually don't see it in a tweet here. So maybe he did it somewhere else. Maybe, let me see. Wait, that's definitely like Twitter.
Yeah, it looks very Yeah, from
maybe I didn't. Well, maybe he's super active, and I didn't even go all the way back to find it. No, I'm with Tim on this one. This is Ewan McGregor saying, "Nope, I'm not doing Star Wars." This is Liam Neeson just happens to have his lightsaber handle handy when he's on TV with who was it? Was it Fallon or was it somebody?
Yeah,
they just so happen to be like, "Oh, this old thing." No, this is Simu Liu is going to be in the Rey movie or something else they're doing together. The other thing too that I thought though is maybe Boyega is in something that Simu's doing in another franchise, and they're just kind of like, joking about it. But it's way too uncalculatedly calculated to not be a thing, I think.
Yeah, and they're all in the Disney family. He's
you've got Marvel, you've got Star Wars, there's crossover, it's something's happening. And I'm here for all of it. So,
Wait, Simu was in the 10 Rings, right? That was him, right? Okay.
Yeah. Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just hope he's not playing Finn. I hope that's not what they're hinting.
We've recast and we've gone in specific direction.
In an effort to appease the Chinese government, we have cast an Asian man as Finn.
Yep, it becomes a whole other thing altogether.
But that's John Boyega. Like, I'm fine with it. Just
John's like, going. You know what? I've got other things going on. Yeah.
Oh man, let's get that room really going. Oh man.
All right. Well, we have one more, and I have to say before Pete puts this up there, this is a very Yub Nub specific. Is this anything? So, Pete, do your thing. Let's see what we got here. We have, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, we have Perrin Firtha, Mon Mothma's husband, and a space faux Fox News version of Greg Gutfeld, because the time it came up on Yub Nub, Perrin Firtha is Gutfeld. Tim, you just have to take this. Is this anything?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. That is definitely a thing. I mean, truly, as soon as we saw a news anchor, that's the first time we ever saw at least a live action news anchor was in Andor, and our minds exploded, because now we know that they're TV sets or whatever, hollow sets, whatever you're going to call it. We need to know everything. We've seen sports shows, broadcast in Star Wars before, but we've never really seen a sitcom or anything like that. So now we are so enamored by someone wrote, "Oh Lord," that's how you know.
Space Gutfeld. That's
he definitely feels. Yeah, it's definitely like a Gutfeld vibe. Very much like he probably has. What's that show Bill Maher has? Between two ferns. Between Club Random. There we go. That's it.
Yeah.
He definitely has a Club Random studio somewhere in his home with Mon Mothma. So smoking some illegal, some weed that's illegal in the Empire.
And he has no idea that his wife is just like, on the other team, he's in his own world, right?
But ultimately, it's definitely something, because I think that everyone's clamoring. Star Wars fans are clamoring for some sort of embrace of camp outside of like cartoons and animated series, tailored for children, most likely. Embrace an element of the camp for the fans. Give us some sort of some place, official space, to kind of make fun of the things in Star Wars that are fun to make fun of, because most of being a Star Wars fan is roasting it a little bit. There's so many nooks and crannies that are fun to poke at.
I think that's one of my favorite things that any guest has ever said on the show, was when Ash Crossan was on Around the Galaxy the first time a couple of years ago. She goes, Star Wars is like your little brother. You get to make fun of it and punch at it sometimes, but you still absolutely love it. And I think that's the problem with fandom, is the people who are taking it way too seriously.
Yes.
And just be like, listen, look, hey, I didn't love everything about the Acolyte, but I loved enough about it where if they had a second season, I'd be there for it. And if they don't have one, that's okay. I still liked pieces of it.
You know what I really want to see? Sorry to cut you off there, but now you got me on this mental tangent of I think we should start a campaign. I'm not saying this because I like either of them. I just really want to see how they interact with each other. Let's start a campaign to get Star Wars Theory Guy on Club Random with Bill Maher. I just want to see how they interact.
Oh my God.
Well, it's funny you say that because at the same time as we're talking about Perrin Firtha in his like secret studio in his house where his wife is watching from another room and he doesn't realize that she's on the other side, it reminds me of the video that showed on this week on Twitter of Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson just like hanging out and laughing and cackling with each other. And we're like,
yeah.
Both of these guys are some of the biggest a-holes that are out there, and they're just laughing like, oh, it's fun, and nobody took a shot at this person. That's crazy. Like, what are you doing right now? Like, Perrin's just hanging out in his little room, drinking his, like, Corellian brandy, going, this is funny, right? Like, what are you doing, Perrin? Where have you gone astray?
There should just be a little screen in Andor showing what Firtha is doing while everything else is going on. Just live footage of whatever he's up to. That should be an option.
Yeah, he's making like a cheese pita while like the fate of the galaxy is in the balance. Like there's just two polar opposite things happening.
And he has no idea. He's just dumb, rich, and happy and clueless, which would be great.
Yeah.
Wait,
remind me of who Tyrus is. Why am I forgetting?
That's actually the exact point that I had too.
Brian, tell us who Tyrus is.
What's the guy's name? The Imperial who lived with his mom, the news anchor. Like, what's that guy?
Oh, yes. What is his? Yeah.
Why can't I remember any of the names of the characters now?
Yeah.
Same.
Andor's so great, I can't remember the characters' names.
He had a very sort of realistic name, I feel like. This is turning into Yub Nub where we Google stuff. And
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah,
exactly. It is
Cyril Karn.
Karn. Yeah.
Okay, I don't think that's Tyrus. That's something else.
Nope.
I don't know.
I'm going to look up Tyrus while we're here because why not? Tyrus, Star Wars. Here we go. That would be.
If I remember correctly, he's the huge ex-wrestler bodyguard that he has on with him.
Oh, on Gutfeld? Let me look that up, Tyrus.
Oh, yeah. It must be because he says it's always on him.
Wait, so Gutfeld has a giant bodyguard on it?
Apparently. Yeah, right. So it's like Steve from the old, what was the...
from... Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
From Jerry Springer.
Steve the bodyguard from Jerry Springer. That's it. Yeah.
Great. And now Google is going to think that I'm a Gutfeld fan, which means I'm going to get all kinds of shit.
Your algorithm is going to be jacked up.
Tyrus is Gutfeld's Praetorian Guard, who we're writing like the...
So it would be like a Gamorrean guard. I think it would be one of the two Gamorrean guards that were in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Where they were thrown over the edge.
One of those guys off of the cliff. Well... I can't begin to talk about how much ground we have covered tonight, Tim. This is why we love you. This is why we like having you on. And we're going to get you out of here in a minute because we promised you, a short window of time. We've taken a little bit extra of that. Before we get you out of here, what do you have going on? What do you want to plug? What do you want to tell you about? How can people find you? All that fun stuff.
Oh, yes. So you can find anything about me at timbarnescomedy.com. I've also got a newsletter that you can find at timbarnescomedy.substack.com. Yub Nub is gearing up for another season. We're part of this great Canadian network called the Sonar Network. And and in addition to Yub Nub, which you should all subscribe to and listen to, our first season with this network, which is kind of like the only season you can find right now, was all about the things that inspired George Lucas to create Star Wars. Hot George Summer, yes, and all the things that he created leading up to the first Star Wars movie. So we talked about his short films at USC. We talked about all of his creative influences. And but in addition to that, I also host a podcast called You Are the Genre, which is just an interview series with people who write movies, who write TV, who write books. And here's a guest that I would love for you guys to get, and I guess for Yub Nub as well. My most recent guest was Tanana Reeve Du. She's a great horror writer, and she has this podcast called the Life Writing Podcast that she co-hosts with her husband, Stephen Barnes, who is of no relation to me, but Stephen just released a Mace Windu book that I cannot wait to read.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just at this point, but that's all the stuff about me. How about you?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to encourage also timbarnescomedy.com. Is that right? timbarnescomedy.com. Yeah. You can sign up. You've got newsletters. You've got Substacks. You've got all that stuff. Letters from African America. 5 jokes. I have that. It shows up in my inbox. They make me laugh every time. It's 100% worth your time. Tim is a brilliant writer and one of our favorite people. So thank you so much for being on with us tonight. We will definitely have you back again sometime soon because we love to do this. Just hang out, laugh, and talk about Star Wars.
Thank you for having me. I believe in you all.
Well, Tim, if you believe in us, then we can make it through yet another day. Appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. We'll catch you next time, buddy.
Bye.
See ya. Tim's freaking hilarious, man. I honestly, like, if we weren't watching the clock, like, this would have been one of those 4-hour marathon podcasts that people are like, oh my God, when will they stop? But we were just having so much fun. So we'll just, we'll keep going. Well, Nick, it has been an action-packed show tonight. We had 2 super funny people. We chugged some beer. We did some news. We started a new segment. Let us know what you think in the comments of what you think about the Is This Anything segment. We can bring that back with just about anybody we'd like. Nick, who do we have next week?
I'm literally looking up as you said that because I knew that was the next question.
You knew I was going to ask that.
Oh, I did. And I was like, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready, but I am ready now. Longtime friend of the show has a new book coming out. I believe the book comes out on Tuesday. It's called Killer Cocktails.
Yes.
It is our friend Holly Fry. Holly is a Star Wars person. She's a Disney person. She hosts a fantastic podcast, Stuff You Missed in History Class. And she has a cocktail book coming out based on one of her other podcasts, and it's cocktail recipes. I mean, you know, if you know anything about this show, you know we like to drink.
It's going to get wild.
It's going to be great. So Holly is going to be on with us next Thursday night talking about the book. We will get into Star Wars. I'm pretty sure she will be coming to us from Cabe's Oasis, which is the Star Wars cantina that she has built inside her house, represented by this glass I have right here. Right there. So yeah, Holly's gonna be with us next week.
We have to ask her to give us a tour of Cabe's Oasis on the show next week.
We can totally make that happen.
She's on a mobile camera, so
that's right. And we are working on a extra special guest for our Snoketoberfest toast next week. Big life event, big something in the works. So lots of fun things next week on ATG Live.
Awesome. Well, Nick, this has been a lot of fun as always. And I'm looking forward to next week with you. This is your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. But in the meantime, Nick, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.